You were taught that the strongest people carry everyone else, that kindness means saying yes, that loyalty means staying when everyone else walks away. It sounds noble. It feels moral. But history tells a colder story. Kingdoms did not collapse because their rulers lacked compassion. They collapsed because they gave their trust, their time, and their resources to people who consumed everything without changing anything. The tragedy is not that evil exists. The tragedy is that good people often mistake endless sacrifice for wisdom. Every day, someone empties their future trying to repair a person who has no intention of repairing themselves. They call it love. They call it duty. They call it hope. Yet hope without judgment becomes a prison. Machiavelli observed that power is rarely stolen in one dramatic moment. It is usually surrendered little by little. One favor, one excuse, one second chance after another, until the person who wanted to save everyone wakes up exhausted, surrounded by people who have become comfortable living from their strength. The uncomfortable truth is that not every cry for help is a call for change. Some are invitations into a cycle that never ends. If you cannot recognize the difference, you may spend years fighting battles that were never yours. Before you decide who deserves your loyalty, you must first understand why your instinct to rescue others can quietly become the weapon used against you. Number 1. The addiction to being needed. The first trap is not another person. It is the feeling that your value depends on solving someone else's problems. This illusion hides behind kindness because it rewards you immediately. Every time someone says they cannot survive without you, your mind mistakes dependency for importance. It feels powerful. It feels meaningful. Yet the relationship slowly changes shape. You stop helping because it is the right decision. You help because you fear what your identity becomes if you stop. The person asking for support notices this long before you do. They learn which words unlock your sympathy. They learn which stories soften your boundaries. They stop searching for solutions because they have already found something easier. They found you. Modern workplaces reveal this pattern every day. One employee constantly misses deadlines. Another quietly finishes the work to protect the team. Months pass. The responsible employee becomes overwhelmed, while the irresponsible one becomes even less accountable. The problem was never a lack of ability. It was the certainty that someone else would absorb the consequences. Families repeat the same cycle. Friendships repeat it. Romantic relationships repeat it. Responsibility moves away from the person creating the problem and settles on the shoulders of the person least willing to watch others fail. This is how emotional debt is created. It grows silently, until your own ambitions begin to disappear beneath obligations you never consciously accepted. Machiavelli understood that every ruler possesses limited attention, limited energy, and limited authority. Once those resources are spent protecting avoidable failures, they are no longer available for meaningful opportunities. The same principle governs ordinary life. Every unnecessary rescue quietly steals time from your own future. The difficult lesson is not learning how to save people. The difficult lesson is learning when your help protects growth and when it merely protects comfort. Because once comfort becomes more valuable than responsibility, the relationship stops being an act of compassion. It becomes an exchange, where one person slowly disappears, while the other never has a reason to change. And the next illusion is even more dangerous, because it arrives wearing the face of gratitude. Number 2. The gratitude that quietly becomes entitlement. The most dangerous relationships rarely begin with manipulation. They begin with appreciation. Someone thanks you with genuine emotion. They promise they will never forget what you did. Their relief feels real. Their gratitude seems sincere. For a while, it probably is. But human psychology has a strange habit. What is repeated often enough stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like normal. Then, normal slowly transforms into expectation. The first favor earns gratitude. The second receives appreciation. The third is assumed. The fourth becomes an obligation. The fifth becomes your responsibility. Without realizing it, you have crossed an invisible border. You are no longer helping someone through a difficult season. You have become part of the system that allows the season to continue. Watch what happens the first time you hesitate. Their disappointment appears faster than their appreciation ever did. They remind you of everything you have done before, as if your past generosity has become a contract you never signed. They speak less about your kindness and more about what you owe them. This shift rarely happens overnight. It grows quietly, hidden beneath familiar conversations and small requests that seem impossible to refuse. Businesses understand this better than most families do. A manager who constantly excuses poor performance in the name of loyalty eventually discovers that standards disappear. The employees carrying the greatest burden lose motivation, while the least accountable become the most demanding. The culture changes because consequences disappeared. Relationships obey the same law. Every boundary you erase teaches another person how far they can walk into your life without asking permission. Machiavelli observed that people adapt quickly to favorable conditions. Comfort reshapes expectations faster than hardship reshapes character. That is why generosity without limits often creates the very attitude it hoped to prevent. The irony is painful. The more consistently you remove every obstacle from another person's path, the less remarkable your effort appears. Eventually, they stop seeing sacrifice. They simply notice the rare occasions when it is missing. That is the moment many people mistake entitlement for betrayal. They wonder why someone became cold after receiving so much support. The answer is rarely hidden. Dependence quietly replaced appreciation. Expectations replaced respect. Your kindness lost its meaning because it became predictable. Healthy relationships celebrate support without demanding it. Unhealthy relationships measure affection by access. They believe love should always be available, always patient, always willing to absorb another emergency. But anything that can only survive without boundaries eventually begins consuming the person holding those boundaries open. Sometimes the strongest answer is not another sacrifice. Sometimes it is allowing another adult to carry the full weight of their own decisions. Because the people who truly value your presence will respect your limits. The ones who valued only your usefulness will reveal themselves the moment those limits appear. And there is one kind of person who reacts to your growth in an entirely different way. They do not ask for your strength. They quietly hope you lose it. Number 3, the shadow that smiles at your success. Not everyone who applauds you is celebrating. Some are simply measuring how far ahead you have moved. Envy is rarely loud. It does not arrive wearing anger. It arrives wearing familiarity. It laughs at your jokes. It remembers your birthday. It tells everyone how proud it is of you. Then, quietly, it begins trimming the edges of your confidence. The most dangerous rival is rarely the stranger who openly competes against you. It is the person who grew comfortable standing beside you until your progress forced them to compare their life with yours. Comparison is the birthplace of hidden resentment. The moment your growth becomes evidence of their stagnation, your success stops feeling inspirational. It becomes personal. They rarely attack directly, because direct attacks expose intention. Instead, they specialize in subtle erosion. You announce a new opportunity. They immediately mention the risks. You celebrate a milestone. They remind you how easily everything could disappear. You share a bold vision. They suggest waiting a little longer. They call it realism. They call it concern. They call it protecting you from disappointment. But notice the pattern. Their advice almost always points in one direction. Smaller goals, lower expectations, less visibility, less courage. They are not protecting your future. They are protecting their comfort. Modern organizations reveal this every day. A talented employee begins outperforming the group. Suddenly, the jokes become sharper. Invitations become less frequent. Minor mistakes receive more attention than major achievements. Nothing obvious happens. Yet the atmosphere changes. Excellence quietly disrupts the emotional balance of people who preferred equality without effort. Machiavelli understood that status changes relationships faster than words ever could. The moment power shifts, hidden motives become visible. Some people celebrate your rise because it proves growth is possible. Others resent it because it removes every excuse they once believed. They cannot admit that truth, even to themselves. So they invent another story. You became lucky. You changed. You forgot where you came from. They rewrite your journey because accepting your discipline would force them to confront their own choices. This is why silence is often stronger than explanation. Not every victory deserves an audience. Not every plan requires approval. The more valuable your ambition becomes, the fewer people should know its direction before it is complete. Privacy is not secrecy born from fear. It is discipline born from experience. A seed grows strongest beneath the soil, not under constant inspection. Learn to distinguish encouragement from curiosity. Learn to distinguish loyalty from convenience. Most importantly, learn to observe how people respond when life finally rewards your effort. Success does not merely reveal your character, it reveals theirs. Some will walk beside you with genuine joy. Others will smile while quietly hoping gravity pulls you back to their level. The wise person wastes no energy exposing envy. They simply stop feeding it, because the next kind of person does not resent your strength. They survive by convincing everyone that they have none. Number 4, the identity built around suffering. Some people are trapped by hardship. Others become attached to it. The difference is almost invisible until you try to help. The first person reaches for every opportunity to rebuild. The second finds a reason every opportunity cannot possibly work. At first, you assume they simply need more encouragement, so you listen longer. You give better advice. You introduce them to people who can open doors. You invest your time because you believe one honest conversation might change everything. Yet every solution somehow returns to the same destination. Another excuse, another obstacle, another reason the world is uniquely unfair to them. The pattern never changes because the problem was never the obstacle. The obstacle became their identity. Remove it, and they no longer know who they are. Human beings protect their identities with astonishing force. Even painful identities can feel safer than uncertain freedom. A person who has spent years defining themselves as misunderstood, abandoned, or perpetually unlucky often begins to organize life around proving that story true. Every disappointment becomes evidence. Every disagreement becomes confirmation. Every failed relationship becomes another chapter supporting the same narrative. Reality is filtered until only information that protects the identity remains. Machiavelli observed that people defend what preserves their position, even when that position weakens them. The same principle exists within the mind. When suffering becomes a source of attention, sympathy, or certainty, letting go of suffering begins to feel like losing power. That is why some people reject every ladder offered to them. Climbing would require becoming someone unfamiliar. Consider a workplace where one employee constantly insists that every assignment is impossible. Colleagues step in to help. Managers lower expectations. Deadlines become flexible. Months later, nothing has improved because the system quietly rewarded helplessness. The individual never had to discover what they were capable of because someone else always reduced the weight before it became uncomfortable. Relationships operate the same way. Every time you remove every consequence from another person's decisions, you also remove one of life's greatest teachers. Growth rarely begins inside comfort. It begins the moment excuses become more painful than responsibility. This does not mean abandoning compassion. It means understanding that compassion without accountability often prolongs the very suffering it hopes to erase. Sometimes, the kindest decision is refusing to become another pillar supporting a story that keeps someone trapped. People do not transform because another person believes in them. They transform when reality becomes impossible to negotiate with. Until then, Every rescue risks becoming another reason to stay exactly where they are. The hardest lesson is accepting that you cannot carry another person's future farther than they are willing to walk themselves. And the next person you will meet presents a different challenge altogether. They are not attached to suffering. They are attached to certainty, even when certainty leads them straight toward ruin.